As a type 2 diabetic, you are not alone, and now it's time to give back. Hey, my name is Seamus. I'm not a doctor or a diabetes coach or dietitian or anything like that. I'm just a guy who got type 2 diabetes and was able to reverse it and go from 11.1 A1C to currently 5.2 with no meds. And this is just kind of the things that I've learned along the way. So before making any changes, please consult your medical team. A little bit different one today because this is, if you're listening to this podcast, or that means that you want to get better, right? And if you keep doing the research, you are going to get better. You're going to make the right choices, right? But this podcast is about once you start having success, other diabetics in your friends and family are going to start asking how. And so it kind of puts you in a position where you got to try to help them out and make the right choices for them and help them get along the way. So 2021 American Diabetes Association said 11% of Americans have diabetes. 95% of those were type 2 diabetics, about 38 million people. Also in 2021, American Diabetes Association estimated that 96 million Americans over 18 are pre-diabetic. It's about 1 in 3. That's a lot. So you are not alone. There's a whole bunch of diabetics out there, especially type 2 diabetics. And one of the things you're going to find after being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetics, that there's people in your family and friends that are in the same boat as you. I remember going to this Christmas party, right? And it was out of town at a friend's house, and I showed up there, and someone was asking about, oh, hey, we got this and this. I think you can eat that. And they're like, oh, you have food restrictions. I was like, no, I got type 2 diabetes. 5 people at that Christmas party had type 2 diabetes. A lot of them were eating a lot of different stuff than I was because they were not in the same boat. They weren't trying to reverse their diabetes. They were just trying to maintain it. But, you're just going to run into them all over the place. You'll find them at work. You're going to find them if you go to church or in your group of friends and stuff. You're just going to find a whole bunch of people, right? But you're going to be asked by fellow diabetics, how did you do it? Especially if you're having success. I get asked this all the time, right? Now, I was asked multiple times by my medical team to make this podcast, right? To get my story out there because I am not the norm. I reversed my diabetes. I went from 11.1 to 5.1 with medication in 6 months. A year, after 1 year, I got rid of all my medications. And now after 18 months, I'm at 5.2. So I'm in remission. I've reversed it, right? But I'm not the norm. And so my medical team was like, we'd really like to see patients approach their diabetes like you did. And I said, well, it's just not going to happen for everyone, right? Everyone's a little bit different. And so, but you're going to start as you start having success. And I'm considered a really good diabetic. And I tell everyone I have diabetes, and they ask me questions and stuff like that. So what are you supposed to do when your friend is asking you to help them, right? And here's just some stuff that I've learned because I've got that question quite a bit. And see if it helps you out. I hope so. First off, listen. Yeah, sometimes that's all they need, especially if they just got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or they were pre-diabetic and they made the switch from pre-diabetic to type 2 diabetes, or they've been dealing with it in quietly, right? Like, "Oh, I've been trying to eat better, I've been trying to exercise more or whatever, but it isn't working for them." So sometimes all they need is for someone to just let them listen. Not and when I say listen, I mean listen. Not, hey, yeah, I've been trying to exercise more. Oh yeah, how much are you exercising? Because that ain't enough. Don't come back with your opinion. Listen, right? Sometimes they just need to be able to talk to someone that can relate about their fears, their victories, their struggles. Let them tell the story, right? Now, as they're telling their story, if you are going to help them, they've approached you and said, "Listen, I want to talk to you about my diabetes, and you've done so good with it. I'd like to, if you could help me out, give me any advice, that'd be great." Right? They might not be saying, "Hey, can you sign up and I want you to be my diabetic coach," right? But they definitely want some advice, right? And they're opening up to you, right? Here's some things to listen for. Do they understand how they got here, right? Do they understand that most type 2 diabetics are obese or overweight and they caused it themselves because they didn't move enough, because they ate the wrong things? Do they understand that, or do they feel like, I don't know what happened, right? Are they clueless as to what caused the type 2 diabetes? Because I can tell you that I run into that a lot, and they're like, I am, how did you get type 2 diabetes? I'm like, because I ate like an idiot and I didn't work out enough. Now, I have some other metabolic things that probably did that because, mine's a little bit different, right? Than a lot of other people's. But be a great listener and wait for questions before offering advice. And we're all different, right? Your plan is not their plan. My plan is not your plan. Diabetes is a symptom of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is caused by a ton of different things. And most type 2 diabetics are overweight. Yes, 90 to 95% are overweight. But not everyone's the same, because I wasn't, right? I'm still insulin resistant. I'm 6'2" and 178 pounds. When I got diagnosed, I think I was just over 200 pounds. That is not overweight for a 6'2" guy, right? So everyone is different. Your plan is going to be different. What you do on a daily basis is not what they will probably do on a daily basis in order to succeed. The plan is to help them make a plan. It's hard to pin down and make generic, like, if you just do these two things every single day for the rest of your life, you'll reverse your diabetes and be perfect, right? That is not how it works. It's just different for everyone. There are golden rules, yeah, that should help everyone, right? And those are eat right, exercise, sleep, control the stress, right? All the four things that nobody wants to hear. They want a magic pill. They want to be like, oh, you know what I did is I started lifting heavier and I reversed my diabetes. Oh, that's all I have to do? Yeah, do 20 curls a day and you're good to go, right? No, that's not how it works. But each of those are different for everyone. You and I are only experts in our own diabetes. If you're having success with it, that means you've figured out your diabetes, right? Unless, of course, that's your job. If you're a diabetic, like, coach or an endocrinologist, or this is what you do, right? Then, but for most of us, the best that we can hope for is to be experts in our own diabetes. And so we need to keep drawing back on what worked for us and helping them figure out what's good for them. Always be willing to listen. And the questions will come, right? So, how much do I need to exercise? What I always say there is, I may and probably do exercise more than I need to reverse my diabetes. I probably could have reversed my diabetes with less workouts. I enjoy the workout. I'm not. I'm a bit addicted to it now, but I like the workout. It's good for my brain. All that kind of stuff. I work out 12 times a week. That's a lot. Not everyone's going to go out and train for a half marathon. I get it. But I always go back to your journey and then help them create their own, right? Not everyone wants to work out for an hour every day at lunch. Oh, no, I don't want to, that might be too much. Okay, that's fine. I mean, if they have not worked out for 10 years and they want to start running 5 miles per day, wish them luck. But maybe help them be a little bit more realistic, right? We have to, the end goal is great, but the starting point, if you start off too strong, I'm going to work out 30 hours a week, right? You're going to be really disappointed because you're going to probably fail at that. How did you get started, right? That's a question. Where are you now compared to back then? I worked out 5 days a week for a couple of weeks when I first got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, because I went from running at like 300 plus blood sugar to like 150 immediately because of all the medications and what I was eating and everything, right? And it took a couple of weeks. I felt terrible. I didn't give up, but man, did I felt a 20-minute workout was just brutal. And then I started feeling good. My body started responding. I started training for a half marathon. That's me, right? That's not you, and that's not them. That's just how I decided to do that. I was a runner my whole life, and I'm back to being a runner, which is awesome. But everyone's journey is going to be a little bit different. One of the things I do ask is, when were you most athletic? When were you in the best shape of your life, right? It's usually high school, but what were you doing? Like, were you a runner? Were you a lifter? Kind of draw back to that inner athlete and try to get them to imagine what it would feel like if they got back to that, or at least something that resembled that at our age, right? Because most of us are a little bit older. What should I be eating? How much protein do I need? How many carbs, right? There's a whole scientific thing that goes into what you should be eating, right? And you got to be careful with that because, again, just like the exercise, the meal plan that works for you might not be the meal plan that works for them. They could eat exactly what you're eating right now, right? For 3 months or whatever, and have much different results, right? If you are, because I do whole food, plant-based, low fat, right? So I eat a lot of carbs, but it's all whole food carbs. If you went from what you're currently eating to that, you might have a very, very bad result, especially right off the bat, right? You could be having spiking blood sugar, all that kind of stuff. So you have to ask them, what are they eating and why? Um, the why will help them develop their meal plan. Like, what is your plan? Why are you eating that? And why do you think it's a perfect plan for you? And then help them develop a perfect plan for this, right? It's not a eat this and you're cured, right? I think there's a meal plan for everyone based on a million different factors, right? What do you currently eat? What do you enjoy eating? And how far can you get to the healthy side as quick as possible? Right. If someone's a complete meat eater, I'm not going to tell them, hey, I think you need to go vegan tomorrow. It kill them. Right. You kind of have to be your own dietitian. I can guarantee you Pop Tarts will not be on the list. No offense to Pop Tarts, but it ain't going to happen. Not if you're diabetic. Here's a question I get, and I hate it because this is a really tough one. How long will it take? This one you can actually answer because the answer is it will take forever. If you have type 2 diabetes, you will always be working on it. I will always be insulin resistant. Even though I've reversed my diabetes and I'm in remission, right? My doctor said you still have a little bit of insulin resistant. What does it come from? It's just the way that my body stores fat. Yeah. Just gets it in the cell and makes it a little bit hard for the insulin to work. Okay. So I do everything I can to be as insulin sensitive as possible. But I will hopefully always be a reverse diabetic or diabetic in remission, but I'll never be able to go back to eating the way I did and not exercising without first becoming pre-diabetic and then going back to type 2. I know for a fact that if I'm like, hey, you know what? I've done awesome. I'm so good. I think maybe every Friday or Saturday, or maybe get me some Little Debbie's, okay? Have a little bit of them Swiss rolls. I'll burn it off. I'll be fine. And I probably would be fine for a while, but it'll take me down the path that I just can't do that again. You don't cure diabetes, you change the actions that caused it, right? There isn't a cure for diabetes, just like there isn't a main cause for diabetes. Type 2, not type 1. Type 1 is completely different, but it's the actions, right? Questions you can ask them, right? Would you like me to hold you accountable? That's a hard one for them to answer because they may immediately, yes, absolutely, I'm all in. And then you start reaching out to them, and all of a sudden they don't want to take your call or they don't text you back because they had a bad A1C test because they didn't do what they said they wanted to do, and they get frustrated. I ask them, do you want me to check in on you? And some will say yes. Some will say, I'll let you know. Right? If they say I'll let you know, that's an actual absolute no, by the way. They're like, I just wanted to have a conversation with someone who is good at diabetes and then decide if I want to do what they did. Most people don't want to do what I did. And I totally get that. I mean, but some do. And sometimes they'll just want to have the conversation over and over and over again. Same one. I've had it with people over and over again, and they're hoping that one of these conversations, for whatever reason, will inspire them to go, right? And to make that leap and to get started and to get committed to it. So it's up to you how much time you want to give them. I encourage you to be patient, but that's up to you. Resources. Resources are amazing. And resources can really help someone out, especially if you're not confident when you're first talking to a couple of people about diabetes and you're explaining what you did and everything. Resources are really, really, really good because it kind of takes the pressure off of you to be the expert, because you're not. You're just the expert in your own diabetes, but it kind of puts it on like, I did this, and maybe you should read this, and this will help you out, right? One of the things I do ask though, and I have, is how do you learn, right? Are you a reader? Are you a listener? Are you a watcher? Right? Because people learn differently. Now I'm weird. I like to do all three. So when I read, like when I read a book I like on diabetes, or positive thinking, or whatever I'm into at the time, minimalism, I get into a whole bunch of different things. But whenever I read a book, or I find a podcast or a video that I like to go back and do all three. Right? I like to consume it three different ways, and I will tell you, you get three different things out of it. It's a lot different. Um, I remember I was watching this video that someone sent me for work, right? And I had watched the video, and it had slides and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I felt like I got a lot out of it. It's like a 25-minute video, right? And I was getting ready to go for a run. It was a Sunday, like today. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to the video I just watched and see if I pick up anything else. Totally different experience. Totally different. I got information and obtained information from both ways, right? The visual and everything, and the listening, but in totally different ways. There were things that when I listened, I didn't pick up on because I was too busy reading the screen. And there were things that when I was listening, I didn't really remember, but I had seen it when I was watching it. Anyway, that's just me. But my favorite resources: Mastering Diabetes and Reversing Diabetes. Two great books. They also have some podcasts associated with them, and also a lot of videos out there. So those books were the foundation for me. But I was already a vegetarian, and I decided to go vegan, basically, right? Whole food, plant-based, low fat, right? That is not for everyone. That is not for everyone. I think the lessons learned in reversing diabetes are pretty universal. Mastering diabetes is definitely a straight line. Do this, and this is why, and this is how it works. But the both of those books were really good for me. But what resources did you use? Was it a book, a podcast, a support group? Right? I don't have one of those where I'm at, but a support group would be great. Um, did you get a CGM? I got a constant glucose monitor. I had to ask for it, but I asked for one because I started doing my research, and everyone kept talking about these CGMs. So when I went in for an appointment, I think I don't know, a month or two into this, they said, hey, what about a CGM? That changed everything for me. That was when I started reversing my diabetes. I wanted to before that, but a constant glucose monitor changed everything for me. That's a great resource. Did you have a video that you watched, right, to learn more about CGMs, right? Send that to them, right? But that is, those resources are just awesome because it guys kind of take the pressure off of you. And even if you're just a good listener, right? Even if you're just hey, I want to call and talk about diabetes. Awesome. That might be everything to them. You're not alone. And unfortunately, the numbers are growing. So if you feel the need to get back, do it with patience and with understanding. I hope your A1C is down. I hope you have an awesome day.